The punchline. It started like any other neighborhood gathering. The usual scene. Plastic cups brimming with cheap wine, 4 smiles, an unspoken contest over who had their life more put together. Everyone pretending to be closer than they actually were. I didn't think much of it when the conversation turned to my husband. Mark had always been a little socially awkward, the kind of guy who stumbles over his words or cracks a joke that doesn't land until it's too late. I roll my eyes at him more times than I can count. But that night, fueled by a few too many glasses of Chardonnay and the easy encouragement of the group, I joined in. We love Mark, someone said with a chuckle. But he's, a little different. I laughed, the words slipping out before I could stop them. Oh, you have no idea. You should see him try to fix things around the house. It's like watching a YouTube tutorial in reverse. Everything ends up worse. Laughter erupted, not the polite kind, but real, deep laughter. The kind that feeds your ego, makes you feel like the funniest person in the room. So I kept going. I swear, sometimes I think Mark is secretly auditioning for America's Funniest Home Videos. Like that time he tried to fix a garbage disposal and ended up flooding the entire kitchen. Classic Mark. The men slapped their knees. The women nodded knowingly. Even Karen, the neighbor who'd always looked down on me, was wiping away tears from laughing so hard. For once, I felt like I was winning. I glanced at Mark across the patio. He was at the grill, flipping burgers, his face carefully composed, unreadable. I should have stopped there, but the laughter felt too good. And don't even get me started on his sense of direction, I added with a smirk. Mark could get lost in his own driveway. He's got this navigation app that's supposed to help, but half the time he argues with it like, no, I know a better way. Spoiler alert, he doesn't. Another wave of laughter. Even Karen was gasping for air. Then Mark put down the spatula. At first, I thought he was just stepping away to grab something, but instead, he walked toward us, shoulders stiff, jaw clenched. The laughter died instantly. The air shifted. Funny stuff, huh? His voice was calm, steady, but there was an edge to it, sharp enough to cut. You know what's really funny? He continued. Spending 15 years trying to make someone happy, only to find out you're the punchline at a backyard barbecue. Silence. Thick. Unforgiving. I tried to laugh it off. Oh, come on. But he was already walking away. For a moment, I thought about calling him back, but then my pride kicked in. He's overreacting. It was just jokes. People tease their spouses all the time. That's what I told myself as I put on a pot of coffee, staring out the kitchen window, trying to convince myself I wasn't a villain here. But the truth gnawed at me, because no matter how much I tried to ignore it, I could still see his face. I could still hear the way his voice cracked when he said 15 years. And I didn't know what hurt more, the fact that he had walked away or the fact that I hadn't seen it coming. The morning after, by mid-morning, the text started rolling in. Karen, ever the nosy neighbor, was the first. Hey, just checking in. That was something last night. Hope you're okay. Then Jennifer. Claire, I feel awful. Do you want to talk? Maybe grab lunch? Even Karen's husband, Dale, chimed in. Mark's a good guy. Hope you two work things out. Let me know if I can help. They all meant well, I suppose. But each message felt like a spotlight on my failure. And then Karen sent another text, this time with a photo. Mark, sitting alone at a coffee shop across town. Saw this and thought of you. Maybe you should go talk to him. The breaking point. I wanted to scream, to cry, to hurl my phone across the room. But instead, I just stared at the picture. Mark looked still, resigned, like a man who had already made a decision, one I wasn't sure I was ready to hear. By lunchtime, I was pacing the living room, trying to unravel how things had gone so horribly wrong. It wasn't like we didn't love each other. No, we weren't the couple who posted anniversary tributes or used pet names in public. But we had something real, something solid. Didn't we? I try to remember the last time we had truly talked. Not about Bill's grocery lists or who was taking out the trash, but an actual, meaningful conversation. It had been months, maybe longer, somewhere between the daily routine and my habit of using him as a punchline. I had stopped seeing Mark as someone who could break, and now, it seemed, I had found his breaking point. That afternoon, I called him. No answer. So I texted, "Mark, I'm sorry. Can we please talk?" Nothing. An hour later, I tried again. "I'm not okay. I need to hear from you." Still silence. By 4 p.m., I had drained an entire pot of coffee, and my nerves were shot. Desperate. I found myself on Google, typing things like what to do when your husband leaves and how to fix a marriage after screwing up. I landed on a forum for women dealing with separation. Most of them seemed just as lost as I felt, except for one comment that stuck with me. You can't fix it if they don't want to be fixed, but you can show them you're willing to try. So I tried. First, I drove to the coffee shop where Karen had spotted him. I didn't have a plan, just the hope that seeing him in person might help. But when I got there, he was gone. The barista barely looked up as she wiped down the counter. "Oh, yeah, he left about an hour ago." "No message? Did he say where he was going?" She shook her head. "Nope, just paid his bill and walked out." Panic clawed at my chest. Next, I went to his brother's place. Tom lived a couple towns over and had always been the one to smooth things over when our family hit rough patches. If anyone could talk sense into Mark, it was him. But he didn't know where Mark was either. "What the hell happened, Claire?" Tom asked, arms crossed as he leaned against the doorframe. I swallowed hard. It was stupid. Not even a fight. I was just joking around, and he got upset. Tom's expression didn't change. "Joking about what?" I hesitated. Just teasing him, like everyone does. Tom didn't laugh. "You're not everyone, Claire. You're his wife." That night, I sat alone in our bedroom, surrounded by the pieces of him he hadn't taken. His pillow, his clothes still hanging in the closet, the half-empty bottle of cologne on the dresser. The whole house felt wrong, like it was holding its breath, waiting for him to walk back in. And in the quiet, my mind kept circling back to the note he had left behind. "You've made your feelings clear." The words looped over and over, like a song I couldn't turn off. The price of a punchline. I had really made him feel that way. By the time sleep finally took over, the anger had drained from me, leaving only fear in its place. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't something I could mend with a simple apology or some grand romantic gesture. I had broken something, and I had no idea how to fix it. By morning, I had to face reality. Mark wasn't coming back, not unless I gave him a reason to. Sitting around, hoping time would make it better, wasn't an option. So I swallowed my pride and drove to his office. I sat in the car for what felt like hours, running through 100 different versions of what I would say. But when I finally found the nerve to walk inside, his assistant barely looked up as she said, "Mark hasn't been in all week." And that's when it truly hit me. He wasn't just stepping away from me. He was stepping away from everything. A few days later, a letter arrived in the mail. Not a text, not an email, an actual letter. "Claire, I've been staying with a friend, trying to sort things out." I keep replaying that night in my head, and I've realized it wasn't just about the jokes. It was about the fact that you stopped seeing me as your partner a long time ago. I don't know when it happened, but it's clear that it did. I can't be the guy you mock to make yourself feel better. I deserve more than that. And honestly, so do you? I've decided to file for divorce. It's not an easy choice, but it feels like the right one. I hope we can handle this with respect. Take care, Mark. The finality of it crushed me. My first instinct was a fight, to argue, to plead, to convince him he was wrong. But deep down, I knew he wasn't. I had spent so much time nitpicking, turning his quirks into punchlines, venting about him friends, that I had forgotten what it meant to truly love someone, flaws and all. That night, I sat alone in our too-quiet house and let myself feel everything. The regret, the shame, the unbearable weight of losing someone who had once loved me without hesitation. I wanted to be angry at him for walking away, but I couldn't, because if I was honest with myself, I had walked away first. The divorce was quick, quiet. We had no children, no real assets to battle over. There was nothing to fight for anymore. Mark moved into a small apartment a few towns over. I stayed in the house. Eventually, the neighbors stopped bringing it up. Life, as it always does, moved on. But every so often, I'd catch a glimpse of him at the grocery store, passing by in his car. He never looked particularly happy, but he looked at peace. And it killed me to know he had found that peace without me. It's been a year now. I'm still figuring things out. Therapy has forced me to confront the truth, to understand how I became someone who took the person who loved me most for granted. Mark leaving was a wake-up call I never saw coming. And now, it has made me question everything. Who I am, how I treat the people I care about, what I truly want in a relationship. Do I miss him? Every single day. But I also know he made the right choice. Because sometimes the only way to save yourself is to walk away from someone who has already let you go.